The Ringers' Nora Princiotti and Nathan Hubbard are on a journey breaking down every single Taylor Swift album. For all you Swifties out there, this is the podcast for you. From her most famous moments to her most obscure references, every single album, Taylor Swift has it all. Check it out on the Ringer Dish feed, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by Bank of America. We're all shopping for essentials online these days. And now you can get rewarded for it. With the Bank of America customized Cash Rewards credit card, you can choose to earn 3% cash back on online shopping. The essentials have never felt more rewarding. Visit bankofamerica.com/more rewarding to apply now. Copyright 2021 Bank of America Corporation. This episode is brought to you by Bank of America. We live in a changing world, but who's working to change it for the better? On the Bank of America original podcast, That Made All the Difference, host Alicia Burke sits down with scholars, artists, and advocates like Lonnie Bunch, Secretary of the Smithsonian Museum, and Connie Chung Jo of Asian Americans Advancing Justice to discuss the moments that defined them. Get the latest episode of Bank of America's That Made All the Difference wherever you get your podcasts. What would you like the power to do?
I'm Sean Fennessy.
I'm Amanda Dobbins.
And this is The Big Picture, a conversation show about the king of all monsters. On today's show, we will be talking about what it feels like to see the first big movie of 2021. Some might even call it a blockbuster. I'm talking about the monster movie showdown, Godzilla vs. Kong, which dropped this week on HBO Max. Joining us to talk about Godzilla and Kong and to share his top 5 blockbusters, it's our pal Shay Serrano. Shay, what up?
What up, baby?
You ready for this, man?
Oh, I'm super ready. I'm extremely, very ready.
Amanda, you are well known at The Ringer as our Godzilla historian, so this is a huge week for you. Are you ready for this?
Yes! I like fun, stupid things.
This truly was a fun, stupid thing. So I want to ask you guys, before you sat down to watch this movie, this epic showdown, in your heart of hearts, who did you have? Were you a Godzilla person or a King Kong person? Amanda, I will start with you.
Well, Sean, Kong bows to no one. So, so I was a King Kong person based exclusively on the trailer for this movie, which I have seen more than any other trailer in recent memory. I think that's a combination of the Sixers being on my television in my home too much and getting the TV version of this. And also just an optimized trailer for me personally in terms of really dumb expositional jargon that I cling on to. And I think even though Godzilla's out there hurting people and we don't know why, I mean, that's the other reason that I think that I sided with Kong, because he bows to no one and Godzilla's hurting people.
That is Dobbins energy, bowing to no one. I would agree. Shay, did the trailer for this film change your feelings about whether or not you were a Godzilla person or a King Kong person?
Yeah, there's nothing that could happen in my life that would make me stray away from King Kong's side of this argument. I love Kong. I love a good gorilla in any movie. It doesn't matter what. Give me Congo. Give me Rampage. Give me whatever you want. Mighty Joe Young.
Yeah, sure.
If there's a gorilla in the movie, I'm going to watch that movie. And I was fucking pumped for this one. I didn't even care. I don't care about the fight at all. Like, I just know that Godzilla is a way worse of a hang than King Kong is. And I don't want to like be with Godzilla. I want to be with Kong.
Can I ask a follow-up question here that was posed after my own screening last night? Are you personally a Kong or a Godzilla?
Oh,
I'm a Kong.
Okay.
Especially with regard to this movie. Kong is entirely overmatched. He knows that. He knows there's no way to defeat this undefeatable thing. It's the word God is literally in its name, and you're just like a monkey from an island. Mm-hmm. Like you're overmatched. Yeah. But he don't back down. He fucking showed he got an axe with blue energy, and he's like, let's fucking go. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Amanda, I suspect I know the answer to that question for you, but what are you?
Yeah, some hard truths in my kitchen, because I obviously do really like the water. And also, I like to swim. I like being near the ocean, and just like retreating. first of all, hearing that there's a mechanized version of you and going into a rage and attacking the fake version of you and then just sulking off to be alone again is pretty much a manicore. Like that's I have to recognize that in myself. It's not what I want, but we have to be honest.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately for me, I'm probably closest to Mechagodzilla. You know, robotic. I've been programmed. I'm probably being controlled by another human through a psionic link. It's unfortunate for me. So, you know, this was a very stupid movie. It was pretty fun to watch, and I was very grateful to have it. But as I was thinking about preparing for this and just thinking about Godzilla and King Kong, as one does alone in their house at night, I was thinking about how Kong and Godzilla are important characters, and actually the origins of those characters are meaningful, and they come from thoughtful origins. And that doesn't really feel like where this film franchise, this pair of film franchises, is right now. It's very much in the spectacle. It's a fun night out. But, you know, Kong started obviously as this like parable about colonialism and racism and man's desire to control foreign lands. And Godzilla, of course, is this allegory about nuclear warfare and what happened to Japan in post-World War II. And, you know, they're very purpose-bound films. And so it's interesting the way that kind of kaiju movies and these giant gorilla movies have evolved over time to kind of like suck out all of the meaning and just become not even plot devices and not even devices for character, but just pure spectacle movies. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. Amanda, I was hoping you could explain the entire plot of Godzilla versus Kong for listeners of this show.
I would love to, especially since I did not see Skull Island or any of the other films in this iteration of, I guess, is this the Kong franchise, but then Godzilla is joining?
I believe true union. Like, I think it is truly two, because there have been two Godzilla movies and one Kong movie. Shay, you love Skull Island, right?
Loved it.
Okay.
Loved it.
So I learned very early on in this movie that in the last Godzilla installment, Godzilla saved the world somehow. Is that correct?
Yes, he destroyed all the other monsters.
Right. And Millie Bobby Brown and Kyle Chandler helpfully explained that to me in one of Kyle Chandler's 2 scenes in this movie. I hope that he got paid.
Dad, I'm telling you, there is something provoking him that we're not seeing here. Why else would Godzilla flash an intimidation display if there wasn't another Titan around?
That podcast is filling your head with garbage. You should be in school.
I am just
So, Godzilla's a good guy, and then we also learned that King Kong is a misunderstood good guy, and he is living on Skull Island, but in sort of a Truman Show-esque habitat. Ooh. And he is cared for there by Rebecca Hall, aka the Kong Whisperer. We'll come back to that. And her small friend, like an adopted child, essentially, I believe the child's name is Gia, who has a special connection with King Kong that perhaps has something to do with her family and where she grew up. And is she from Scotland? You know, again, didn't see the movie, not caught up on that lore, but they have a nice bond, and she has a little King Kong doll. And then Godzilla attacks a science, industrial, military complex in Florida. And and we don't know why. We don't know why. He's hurting people, and we don't know why, because he's a good person. And that causes some distress, you know, among the community and the world at large. And then Millie Bobby Brown.
We have like literally 2 more hours of movie to go.
Okay, no. But the premise is always the hardest part. And you didn't tell me I was going to have to do this. Okay, so Millie Bobby Brown is A, a teenager, B, really into this conspiracy theory podcast hosted by Brian Tyree Henry. And she and Brian Tyree Henry think that something's up and that Godzilla wouldn't just attack this facility for no reason because he's a good guy. And so they're investigating why Godzilla attacked it. Meanwhile, Damien Bashir, who is the head of the company that was attacked, is trying to, quote, build defenses against Godzilla, but he's really trying to get unchecked power in a Bond villain sort of way. You can tell pretty quickly. And so he comes up with this cockamamie scheme to recruit Alexander Skarsgård, who is, quote, a scientist in, quote, Philadelphia, to help them lure King Kong to the center of the earth, which is where all of the Alpha Titan's powers come from.
Oh my God. I feel like are you not reading? You're doing an amazing job right now.
Listen, Alpha Titan is another thing that Rebecca Hall has to say in this movie. And they'll get King Kong to lead them to the source of the world's power, which will then animate the aforementioned mechanized Godzilla, who will then defeat the real Godzilla. But then hijinks ensue.
That's pretty good.
Thanks.
Shay, any open areas of interest there that you want to fill in?
No. That's not at all what I understood from this movie when I went into it.
What did you think it was about?
All I knew was a giant lizard and a giant gorilla were gonna fight, and that's all I was you could have cut out every single scene that didn't have them fighting. I don't need you to explain anything to me. I don't need you to come up with a way that these things exist or why they fight. All that I need to know is that CGI right now looks better than it has ever looked ever. These things look real. They don't look like they used to look. They look like actual real things. They do like really neat camera tricks during the fight where it's shooting around and then we'll like zoom in, like if they're really trying to get focused on this thing that we're watching. And that's all that I care about. I don't care about the rest of it. Cut it all out. Just give me those two.
Incredible level of fur detail on King Kong this time around. The CGI is pretty good. I don't know if I was totally blown away by it. I will say, so there are obviously a number of good fun. There are a number of good like action sequences in the movie. There's that opening Godzilla sequence that you talked about, Amanda. There is a big sequence in Hollow Earth, which is the center of the earth that you talked about. There's a showdown in the sea, and then there's a showdown at the end. And when we got to the showdown at the end, I paused HBO Max to see how much time we had left, and it was 31 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is why this movie exists. We have a 31-minute fight sequence on our hands. And that stuff is good. I felt like it was satisfying.
You fast forwarded through the absolute best one, which is when, because Shay, I know that we're there for people fighting, but I do need a certain amount of blockbuster garbage to make fun of around the fight in order to invest, which is how I remember everything about Hollow Earth and how dumb it is. Like, I need for there to be an appropriately silly context for me to be able to cheer when King Kong just absolutely decks Godzilla on an aircraft carrier, which absolutely fucking happened. And I cheered. Like, I just was like, yes, we did it. And I thought that was like the best marriage of this CGI and like, it was the most legible and also the stupidest and the best. I have so many questions about the water physics involved in all of those sequences, how any of those vessels can support King Kong's weight, and and how things when he's climbing back out of the sea, where is the tidal wave? But whatever, it ruled.
We did not ask a scientist to appear on this episode, nor did we ask a zoologist, so I don't know if we're going to get answers to any of those questions. So here's the big question, right? There's a such thing as a good bad movie. And there's maybe a such thing as a bad good movie. But is there like a bad good movie? Like, is there a new kind of movie that is everyone knows going in that this is not a work of art? Everyone knows this may not even be like in the top 5 of this kind of film. And yet there is this huge amount of anticipation because one, here's what we saw. Last night at the box office, a ton of people went to go see this movie. $10 million worth of humans went to go see this movie after a worldwide pandemic. 2, the movie premiered on HBO Max, and frankly, in my little corner of the universe, it seemed like every single person I knew was watching it. This seems like a genuine movie event, which is exciting. It's exciting for this podcast. It's exciting for fans of Godzilla and King Kong like me. So is there a level of self-awareness about this movie experience, or is it just that we've been starving for something, and so this is, a buffet of content?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, there has to be a certain amount of like meme event to this. There's the meme event of, Kong bows to no one, which like maybe I'm just creating that myself. But the minute this trailer came out, there were jokes on the internet. Like there's a self-awareness and then a self-evident like stupidness to all of this that I think people are buying into. And then also obviously it's like vaccines are on the rise in the country and movie theaters are opening. And so there's this like, oh, we can go to the movies again thing that like maybe explains some of the box office, though like frankly I was just surprised by that box office. And then also like it's on your TV at home, so it's really easy to watch, and we haven't had events like this. So I think there's something about kind of the rarity of this moment in time for this movie. And then I do also think we've been starved for giant entertainment that like doesn't come with homework, because so much of the superhero stuff, to be quite honest, like let's just say it like it is, comes with like, okay, this connects to this and this is about this, and now I have to Google it and we have to learn 4,000 things, and Sean is going to send me like a 12-page outline about like the comic origins of XYZ. And like obviously these characters do have cinematic history origins, but like I don't care. I haven't seen a single one of these movies. They punched each other on a giant ship in the middle of the ocean. I'm happy.
Yeah, I think you specifically don't need it. Like if you don't know anything about any of forget about the last 3 movies in this franchise, even the history of these characters, you just don't need it. It's meant to be legible, even though there's so much exposition that is trying to explain why we're here. Shay, did this movie check the boxes you had on your sheet?
Yeah, definitely. Once they have the fight in the ocean, and you're like, all right, I'm in for the rest. Like I just would watch anything with Kong in it. You know, they do those. You can go on like National Geographic website and they'll have a camera pointed at an eagle's nest, and you could just watch it in real time. For like, I would do that with Kong. If there was a camera pointed in his habit all day long, it would just be open, because he's just so sweet and so charming. And just when he starts beating on his chest, I'm happy. I'm excited. When he punched Godzilla, we're watching it. We did this as like a family movie night. Normally we do Friday family movie night. We moved it up 2 days to have a special middle of the week Wednesday family movie night. So we're watching it, and my youngest son, the 8-year-old, the baby, he's sitting on the couch with me and Laramie. And when Kong punches Godzilla, he was just like, oh yeah, like literally screaming. And I was doing the exact same thing. Just the 2 of us. The other 3, the twins and Laramie, were like, whatever. But we were having the best time just watching these things fight. So yes, it checked off the box for me.
Amanda, were you moved by the fact that podcasters have taken the place of TV journalists, newspaper journalists as the animating force of stories and event movies in 2021?
They have not taken the place, because some of the fake news chyrons in this movie like belong in the MoMA. Like and they're also trying to explain some of the Titan mythology via like the 5 words on the bottom of CNN. And I was like, I don't understand the real words on the bottom of CNN at this point, let alone this weird stuff. But listen, love Brian Tyree Henry. And I thought they did a great job of making fun of conspiracy podcasters and podcasters in general. I was delighted, honored to be in his company.
He was a way better podcaster than the podcasters from when they redid the Halloween movie.
Oh yeah.
And they died immediately. Right. Y'all are terrible at this. We need more. We need Brian. Get Brian in here. You know what I was thinking when I was watching this, when the podcasters show up, this like investigative conspiracy theory podcast, is Rebecca Hall was also in, if I remember correctly, Frost Nixon. And I was like, man, she has been in movies with the 2 greatest investigators ever. Ever.
Can we do a nitpick?
Of course.
Go.
So he was posting the podcast after each episode, right? Because Millie Bobby Brown was listening to it. I just, a note to any future podcasting whistleblowers. Perhaps don't give away all of your info and plans before you do it. I don't think in the real world you would make it to save the day as Brian Tyree Henry did. I just think you're blowing up your spot slightly.
Were you concerned that maybe Godzilla was listening to the pod? You know, and
he was definitely listening.
Speaking of Rebecca Hall, this movie, like so many of these movies, is downright loaded with gifted and widely celebrated performers asked to do stupid stuff. This might be the best example of it that I've seen in the last 10 years. There are a number of very talented people here. Rebecca Hall, chief among them. Just no disrespect to her. I don't know what she's doing in the movie. I don't know if she knows what movie she's in. Her line readings are hilarious. And she is asked to say the most weird stuff. You know, someone like Damian Bashir in this movie, I think he knows what movie he's in. He's like, this is a big old piece of ham, and I'm going to chew on it for as many minutes as I can. And I think Rebecca Hall is trying to bring, I think, her very elegant, classically trained sense of acting to Godzilla versus Kong. Amanda, what'd you think of Rebecca's work here?
I think she did a fantastic job. They make her say the most ridiculous shit. I made a list. I'm going to read. This is just a limited selection of the things that Rebecca Hall is asked to say in this movie. Here we go. Number 1, there can't be 2 Alpha Titans. Well, yes. Rebecca, there
yes.
can. When it comes to Kong, what I say goes. Incredible.
Yes.
Incredible. The aforementioned Kong bows to no one. Here, out of nowhere, depth charges. No context. Also, my husband seemed to know exactly what a depth charge was and is like explaining whatever. Okay.
It's because he's seen a lot of submarine movies. It's
yeah,
a submarine
so
movie.
have I. Let me tell you, I've seen every submarine movie and I still do not understand anything about submarines, how they work, or the rules of engagement. We'll come back to that. Here we go. This won't end until one of them submits. You know what? That's some good stakes and exposition, work there.
I like
Finally.
putting the movie in the context of like an MMA fight. Like it's genuinely has rules and someone has to submit before this can be over. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then finally, just a great one from Hollow Earth. This is a power beyond understanding. Just, okay. I don't understand
it. Shay, what'd you think of Rebecca Hall? Proud of her?
Super proud. Listen, every good movie like this, because I think this is, with regard to monster movies, this is one that you can put back on. You need at least one actor in there who is a real actor, who is doing real acting. And she's taking everything very seriously. All of the other people, Skarsgård is basically winking after he says every single line. Meanwhile, Ms. Hall is she's trying to get, put this on her Oscar reel. She's really saying this stuff very sincerely, and I really appreciated that.
Okay, important question. 35 years from now, when Rebecca Hall, who directed a film, Passing, that we talked about earlier this year, is going to be in another film later this year, is set for a big 2021. But 35 years from now, when she's being honored with an honorary Oscar, and they're doing the clip reel, and they're like, here are all the great works that she's been a part of. Will Godzilla vs. Kong be featured in that clip reel?
It'll be the first one. Just the depth charges line that Amanda mentioned. That's all it's going to be. That's a whole clip.
Okay. So you mentioned Brian Tyree Henry. I think he also definitely knows what kind of movie he's in here. We get Millie Bobby Brown and Julian Dennison. Cool to see Julian Dennison in another big American film. People who've seen For the Wilder People will recognize him. I think was he in Deadpool 2?
Deadpool 2. He's the main bad guy. Why is that the second one you mentioned?
Well, I mean, Hunt for the Wilder People. That's great stuff. Chandler
is better.
Chandler, I don't know. Demian Bashir and Aiza Gonzalez as like the two worst people on earth. That was an interesting choice. Incredible end fate for Aiza Gonzalez in this
unreal.
movie.
It came out of nowhere. That's the only part of the movie that surprised me. When she goes, oh no, crushed it. Oh shit. Oh, she's dead. She's dead. What?
My favorite performance by far in this movie, though, is from that magic monkey axe that Shay just mentioned. That axe is elite. Can gorillas swing axes? Is that a thing?
Yeah. Why wouldn't they be able to?
Are we talking about real gorillas? Definitely. Movie gorillas? Absolutely. In Kong Skull Island, he uses several weapons. Several. One of which is like a giant ship propeller attached to a chain that he swings around. He knows what he's doing. He can swing an axe.
I have a question for you guys. So
go for it.
I think some of the funniest and in some cases most beautiful parts of this movie happen in the Hollow Earth section, when they go to the center of the earth to discover Kong's sort of native lands and where all the energy comes from that Demian Bashir's character is after. And there's all this architecture. There's a throne room. There's a throne. Yeah. There is a giant statue of Kong or Kong's relatives. Who made that stuff? Did Kong is Kong into masonry? How did all that stuff come to be?
The Kong family definitely made all of that. You could tell. He just understood it implicitly, which means it comes from him, is my guess.
Amanda, if you could book a one-way ticket to Hollow Earth, would you go?
No. This is... I will say that is the part of the movie I, like your wife, just kind of stopped paying as much attention. No, I got my computer out and started doing some work in this outline, which was fine. I could follow what was going on, but it did have that real CGI throne room fight vibe that like every blockbuster now just ends. It's like a poorly lit, totally fake room with a throne somewhere, and like some evil character that you've never seen before also pops out. Like, I do feel like this happened at some point in Snyder Cut. Maybe it wasn't a throne room, but I was like, oh, okay, we're in this room. I thought about the bad Rise of Skywalker ending. I'm like, yeah. We're checking this box. I don't have to pay as much attention. But, you know, I thought the outside parts of Hollow Earth, really interesting wildlife.
Yeah, sure. Seems like they've been able to evolve without the terrors of the ozone layer being destroyed over time. You know, the greenhouse effect. They're living their best life there in Hollow Earth. Why would you leave? Why wouldn't you just stay?
I mean, some of those animals seemed quite threatening. At one point, Kong almost dies, right? Like he's suffocated by the weird, like flying velociraptor dragon.
We've gotten you to say some extraordinary things on this pod so far, Amanda. I'm really glad you're here.
You think I can't hang, but I can hang. It's just when I choose to. What interests me, what's fun. This is fun. It's stupid, but it's fun.
Who do you guys think was the winner of this movie?
It's Kong.
Yeah.
Unquestionably. He's who they pin everything around. He's the most interesting person. He has the best story arc of everybody. He dies like 3 times, and they keep bringing him back. Yeah, he just is so expressive in his face now. He's like an actual actor, and I love it. He won for me.
Amanda, who won for you?
Well, Kong and hopefully everyone's bank accounts.
Yes.
This is a movie that a lot of people are going to see. This feels like it's going to end up being one of the most widely seen movies of the last 5 years because of the way that it's being distributed, which is fascinating. I got to say, my absolute favorite part of this movie was when Kong popped his shoulder back into joint. Did you guys see that?
I loved it.
That was a nice touch. You know,
Are you serious?
He looked like Derek Coleman out there. You know, he was like, I just got to get back out there and get some boards.
With a skyscraper, he pops it back into place. And you know what's funny is, so that part happens. There's one of the parts that the baby didn't understand. What's he doing there, Dad? I was like, hold on, I'll tell you in a second, because we're watching the fight. And then afterward, I made him watch the scene from Best of the Best on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
where Tommy has to pop Eric Roberts' shoulder back, and he's like, pop it, Tommy. But I still didn't explain to him what was happening. I just made him watch another thing with a shoulder, and he's like, all right, I'm going to bed. This fucking okay.
Amanda, have you ever popped your shoulder out of its joint?
No, but Zach, my husband, does this all the time. You know this. And
I've seen it happen on a golf course. It's terrifying.
And it like will happen sometimes with like swimming. And then the way that he does it is he lies down on the ground and then pops it back in. So anytime it pops out now, I just yell like, get down, like an air raid. So this was a little close to home for me personally, but it was some nice color.
What's wrong with Zach's shoulder?
He's got King Kong energy, you know, sometimes.
His sister has it too. They're fine. But, you know, we just have to be careful. We have to protect the shoulder.
The Barron family, weak shoulders.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Some people are ambidextrous. Some people can't keep their shoulders aligned. It's tough. This episode is brought to you by American Express. There was definitely a point in the past year where it was fun to dress up for absolutely no reason. After days and days and days of wearing gym shorts and t-shirts every day to work, sometimes it's nice to just put on a pair of jeans, button them up, put on a collared shirt, look like a grown human person. Just makes you feel more alive, honestly. With American Express, adding a little more style to your wardrobe is as simple as ever, with offers on your favorite brands. And the savings don't stop there. With offers on travel, entertainment, dining, and more, life's a little better when you're with Amex. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. Terms apply. Remember the feeling you got as a kid of getting tucked into bed? Or the feeling you get now in the arms of somebody you love? Safe and secure. It's a feeling of security that only comes through a human connection. And that's why the people at Simply Safe Home Security are so important. Of course, Simply Safe has an award-winning system that has all the technology bells and whistles you'd expect these days. But the people at Simply Safe really take it to the next level. They're there around the clock anytime you need them. Whether it's a fire, a burglary, a medical emergency, a burst pipe, or even a problem while you're setting up the system, Simply Safe has a person with the expertise you need, ready to help 24/7. And when you know there's always someone there to help, well, that's a feeling you just don't get with any old security system. To find out how SimpliSafe can help make you feel safe and secure at home, visit simplysafe.com/picture to customize your system and get a free security camera. That's simplysafe.com/picture.
This episode is brought to you by HP Instant Ink. No one is reading your mind, but HP Instant Ink knows when your printer is running low and sends you new cartridges, so you never have to think about ink. Save up to 50%. You'll pay less than $5 a month for ink and never run out again. Find out if your printer is eligible and enroll today at hpinstantink.com. Conditions apply. For details, visit hp.com/instantink Spotify.
Guys, I do think that this is a true blue blockbuster. And so even though there's only 3,000 movie theaters and not 5,000 movie theaters open for this film, I thought we should talk a little bit more broadly about blockbusters and just share our favorites. This is a classic monster movie version of it, but there are a lot of different types. So I asked you guys to put together a top 5. I also, as I often do, made some very important but very fake rules for our lists. Amanda, are you on board with my rules at this point?
I was. You let me make one amendment, I guess, or addition, which I appreciated. That was very gracious of you. But I'm used to receiving emails with a lot of instructions from you at this point. I just go with it. It makes everyone's life easier.
You make it sound like I'm like the guy from IKEA, you know, like I'm trying to create an environment where we can have a fun pod. That's all I'm doing, you know, just set some boundaries. All right, I'm going to read the rules. So, what is a blockbuster, at least for this list? Did your movie spend at least one weekend at number 1 atop the US box office? If so, you qualify. Did your film earn at least $75 million at the US box office? If so, you qualify. Does your film have a reported $100 million budget? If so, you qualify. Now, not all of these films need a budget that high, but those at that number will automatically qualify. And finally, does your movie feature a monster, a dinosaur, a burning building, ship, or train, a president in peril, a magical beast, a superhero, an aquatic creature terrorizing people, an international hostage crisis, a James Cameron director's credit, a high-speed vehicle or several, or a ticking time bomb on a bus or elsewhere? If so, you qualify. Shay, was this fun for you to make this list?
This is the most difficult thing I've ever done because as I was going through my list, it's 47 movies long. And I was like, fuck, I don't know where to stop. So I really long. It was very hard.
It's a really wide definition here. It could be any number of things.
Every single movie.
So I had a very personal decision in terms of what kind of movies I wanted to put here. I don't have a lot of monster movies on my list. I don't have any superhero movies on my list. I didn't want to get into that. I was thinking almost entirely about personal movie-going experiences, especially in the 90s, because we are all 90s babies to an extent, and we spent a lot of time in movie theaters in the 90s. We love to talk about movies from the 90s, and there is a very specific brand. So at least for me, you'll hear a lot about that. I assume that's true for both of you guys too.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was too like the parameters you set makes it so that 700 movies are eligible, and that becomes too difficult to choose. So I did the same thing you did. I said, well, which of these are the ones that I just remember being at the movies and being the most excited about before, during, and after?
I tried to avoid 90s creep, but I couldn't help it. I think, I am a child of the 90s, and there is a very specific type of 90s blockbuster that informed not just all the movies that came after, but also our brains. And I believe it or not, was actually overwhelmed by the number of choices. So I tried to take like a pretty narrow definition of blockbusters, and anything that could be sorted into another genre, like James Bond movies, which I absolutely love, but didn't consider, even though I think they, for the most part, would meet the qualifications. It won't surprise anyone to learn there are no superhero movies on my list, even though I really love Wonder Woman and I love Black Panther, and I think those could have qualified, but they're a good version of a different type of movie to me. So I think ultimately the blockbuster had to be able to stand on its own. That was one of the main definitions that I made, even though most of my picks are part of a franchise or they have sequels. It's not that they do stand alone, but that it's not part of the extended universe. And then they're all movies that I have like a deep personal connection to.
Should we share our lists?
I'm surprised that nobody had any superhero movie. The closest I got to putting a superhero movie on there, even closer than Avengers Endgame, which was a great deal of fun, is I almost put Joker on my list.
Wow.
Almost.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't enjoy this movie like at all.
Yeah.
I didn't. But I remember specifically what it felt like before going to watch it, and then being like, I went to the theater and they were like using the metal detectors to make sure nobody had guns. And I was sitting in there half the time, like, is somebody going to shoot this up? Because that was a big thing, like story that was happening. And then afterward, I just felt Joaquin Phoenix is incredible in that, and I just felt so icky and gross. I couldn't quite bring myself to put it on the list. But I don't have any superhero movies either.
Well, I thought you put your finger on something there, though, which is that I think all of these movies create this intangible, ephemeral sensation of we're all together at a moment. You know, we're experiencing something that feels profound, even if it is a little bit silly.
Mm-hmm.
I think they also have to be fun. For me, there's a moment in each of these movies where people cheer. Well, I guess there's one exception, which we can talk about. But even there, I do think people sort of cheer. But the sense that you're having
is Requiem for a Dream the one that you're talking about on your list? Yeah.
No, but like to Shay's point, Joker, which is a movie that I hate, like was obviously a phenomenon and was really successful and ticks all these boxes. But like, did you enjoy it? I think there has to be a certain amount of like, we're going to the movies and we're like having fun and I'm not like super stressed out and I don't even have to worry about if I totally understand this. Just like make stupid things happen and then I can leave.
Yeah. I mean, to that superhero question, the one superhero movie I had as sort of an honorable mention was Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi's movie from 05 or 06, I feel like, because that was before it felt like we were like all of movies had been encroached upon. What do you
Is that the Upside Down Kiss?
That's one. That's the first one. The second one is Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus.
Yeah, Dr. Ock.
All right.
But that's just it's a really, really good movie, and it doesn't feel bound by all of this comic book movie convention stuff. It's just it's a great romance. It's a great adventure. It has as much in common with like Raiders of the Lost Ark as it does. I don't know, Endgame or whatever. Okay, let's go to our lists. Shay, you have not shared your list with us, as is often your strategy here, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Why don't you start us off with number 5?
All right. With number 5. So this is like the hardest decision that I had to make because at this point, I have 7 that are on there that I really want to pick. And I'm going to have to leave 2 of them off. Are we doing honorable mentions afterward?
Yeah, we
can. I can at least say that.
Yeah,
okay.
Of course.
All right. Okay, good. Well, then let me start with number 5. The budget, $18 million, earns $125 million. I need Mortal Kombat. I need the Mortal Kombat from the 90s.
Oh my God.
This is one of my all-time favorite. This is my 5th best ever movie theater experiences because I loved Mortal Kombat, the video game, growing up. I was so excited when the trailer for this movie came out, or when I even heard that they were making this movie. The scene in there where they introduce Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Shang Tsung is the one who does it, and he's like, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, deadliest of enemies. But you know, they're whatever. They have to work under my power. I fucking went nuts in the theater. It starts with the flames coming up and the guy screaming, Mortal Kombat. And I was just, you couldn't tell me nothing. You could not tell me this was the best day of my life when I was a teenager. Goddamn, I love this movie.
Shay, the best moment in my podcasting career was when I got to explain what a fatality was to Amanda about 3 months ago. And we have not instituted Amanda's fatalities on the show, but we're going to do it at some point.
I'm ready. I mean, now that I know what it is, I'm very excited by the idea.
In 3 weeks, Shay, you get a new Mortal Kombat movie. You ready?
We have been talking about it at the Serrano house for weeks. When the trailer came out for that one, I gathered everyone around. Come watch this trailer with me. We turned the volume up super loud. I'm excited. I am real excited for that one.
I genuinely don't think the first Mortal Kombat movie is good, but I really admire your chutzpah
You're
here.
Fucking crazy. It's an action. It's the best video game movie that's ever been made.
Well, that may be
There's
true.
No video game movie better.
Yeah. That's a bit like saying, you know, he's the greatest.
It's not, whatever you're going to say, it's
time.
not like saying that. No.
Okay.
It's good.
Amanda, what's your number 5?
Independence Day, which is
Now we're
basically
talking.
on
Now we're
every
talking.
list that I make
Now we're
on this
talking.
podcast. This is certainly on top 5 Will Smith movies for me, which was a
Unquestionably.
podcast that we did. And I can't overstate the importance of 90s Will Smith to me and my movie going and my cultural, the number one movie star to Amanda Dobbins in 1996. Also, I believe in our apocalypse films, Sean, which that was a podcast that we made during the height of the pandemic and probably should not listen to again, but it also should maybe go into a museum of our personal histories that no one ever wants to visit. This movie rules. I guess this is filling my disaster movie spot. And also, I think ultimately my alien movie spot, because there are other alien movies I love. Armageddon is not on my list, and Men in Black are not on my list, and those are also two important 90s alien. Well, one's alien and one's disaster/alien. But Independence Day and the Bullhorn speech to me, and that image of the laser coming down and completely destroying the White House, which in 1996 had a different valence. I mean, I guess it had a different valence than it does now. I don't really know. It has informed my understanding of the visual language of disaster movies and things going very wrong. So Independence Day.
The laser when you're a kid and you see it.
Yeah.
Because when you're a kid, the White House is like the most important place in the world. And you see it get blown up and you're like, oh shit. Though anytime somebody mentions Independence Day, which I'm so happy you did because this is an outstanding movie. My favorite character in the whole thing is the alien who's working on the ship, who's doing the spaceship intake, and he's just there. He's just there doing his like normal day job. This poor fucking guy gets blown